Here we are at lesson 4 of the Molding Music series. We are going to learn how to notate rhythm, but first we need to learn how to space the music out. Yesterday I had you transferring the notes from Songmaker to the staff. Today we are going to learn how to space the music out like we would when we are actually writing music. In your handout for today, you should have 2 pages that have staff that also have a grid on them. We are going to use this to help us space the music out properly. Alright, before we begin doing our own examples, we will need to draw a treble clef and a bass clef on the top staff as well as the bottom staff. So notice that I have grid paper on the staff. I've divided the staff with bold lines and shaded lines. Each of these bold lines represents a beat, and a beat is a even pulse that we use in music to help us count. We're going to add what we call a time signature. It's called a 4/4 time signature. So basically we just write 4 on the top half of the staff and 4 on the bottom half of the staff. We're not going to talk about what the bottom number means, but what this top number right here indicates is that there are 4 beats each division, or we're going to call them measures. Okay, so basically what that means is that we count to 4 over and over again. So I'm going to write those countings in, starting with the Songmaker sheet. And Songmaker is divided the same way. It has the same type of grid as I have on the staff. It has these bold lines as well as these kind of shaded lines. And again, right after each bold line is a beat in Songmaker. So that's what each of those bold and shaded lines mean. Okay, so there are 4 beats in each unit or each measure. So what I'm going to do after I count to 4, like I have written down, I am going to divide. This is what we call a bar line. A bar line divides the measures, just like this. I'm using a Sharpie. You can use a pencil as long as you make these lines more bold than the others. And then I just restart the counts. So 1, 2, 3, 4 here on the staff, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 here on the Songmaker grid. And then I make another bold line on both. And I'm writing this on both so that I know where the music is going to line up, because it should line up in Songmaker just like you have it in the staff according to the grid. So I'm drawing our numbers again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then making our divisions. After we finish this on the staff and on Songmaker, after we've got all of our countings in and the bar lines that divide the measures, we're going to start adding this to our examples. So let's go ahead and take our first example. That's the example that I wrote for you in lesson 2. Okay, so notice that we have 4 bar lines like this. Okay, so here is the example, and I printed out a sheet that shows the notes and where they appear on Songmaker and how it fits within the grid. And then basically what we're going to do is take the same grid spacing from Songmaker and put it onto the staff. So of course you start out with your treble clef and your bass clef and then join the 2 staves together. Then you're going to take that grid and then you're going to plug in those notes that I have here on that paper that we created yesterday in lesson 3. Okay, here's our time signature indicating that there are 4 beats per unit, or 4 beats per measure. And instead of writing the counts in the middle, I did that just to show you a little bit more clearly how things are divided. I'm going to write the counts above the staff, and whenever you do this for the pieces that you wrote, I want you to do the same. Just write in the counts. It's going to be a lot easier to keep track of where you are on the staff compared to where you are on SongMaker. And go ahead and draw bar lines for your staff, as well as on SongMaker. Actually, you'll probably do the SongMaker example on the computer. So if there's a way that you can write in these divisions on the computer, go ahead and do that. If not, don't worry about it. Just make sure that you're following exactly where you are within the music. In SongMaker, they have the music divided out with each measure, every other measure being kind of shaded a little bit, which also helps you keep track of where you are within the music. Okay, I've almost finished drawing out the countings for both the staff and the SongMaker page. And then we're going to work on transferring the notes from SongMaker and from the work that we did yesterday onto this grid staff paper to show us the proper spacing. And this is going to be the spacing that we're going to use when we write in actual rhythms. Okay, I finished the bar lines, dividing the measures. Okay, so our first note is a C, and it's going to appear on the first box of our grid. So it's the first beat, the first half of the first beat. Then we have another C up on the little bit higher, so on the ledger line, and that's going to be on the second half of the first beat. Then we got a B on the second half of beat 2. So it's got to be after the faded line of beat 2. Okay, and then we got G in the treble clef, and then 2 C's in the bass clef, and this is on beat 3. And then on the second half of beat 3, we got our F. Okay, and then the next measure, we got a C on the second half of beat 1. And then we got 2 C's on beat 2. That's going to be middle C on the ledger line of the bass clef. And then we got a B on the second half of beat 3. And then we got another C on the second half of beat 4. And then on the second half of beat 1 of measure 3, we got an E, and then on the last half of beat 4 of measure 3. Okay, now the next measure, the last measure, we got a C on the first half of beat 1, followed by another C, an octave higher, on the second half of beat 1, and then a B on the second half of beat 2, and then finally a G on beat 4. So that's our first example. Let's go ahead and take our second example, which is Ode to Joy. We're going to do the same thing. The good thing about Ode to Joy, and I've already filled out the numbers and the bar lines and the time signature and everything. Make sure you do that on each of your examples, or excuse me, on each of your compositions that you wrote. And I'm making sure that the notes line up just like it does in SongMaker onto my grid on the staff. Everything in Ode to Joy falls on the beat, so this will be easier. And we got 2 C's. I'm making sure that everything that's on beat 1 falls on beat 2, everything that's on beat 2 falls, or everything on beat 1 falls on beat 1, everything on beat 2 falls on beat 2, and so on. And I'm following the staff that I made yesterday, how the notes fall on the staff. Make sure you put them on the correct lines and spaces. Okay, so I finished that page, and I'm going to use this line to divide where we are, to mark where we left off. Okay, here's another grid sheet on the staff, and here's the second half of Ode to Joy. Okay, I'm going to draw the 2 clefs again. So the same process that we took for our first example. Make sure you always do this process of drawing your clefs and joining the clefs together, or joining the 2 staves together with your line as well as your bracket, and then make sure you divide the measures as well, writing in the counts every 4 beats, restart, and the bar lines dividing the measures. And then if you can, write in your counts in Songmaker if you have a way of doing that on the computer. Or if you have access to a printer, you might print out your page in Songmaker. I find it's easier to read, if, at least as far as the grid goes, if you do black and white, unless you have a good color printer. Oops, I divided that wrong. So I'm going to cross that out and put in the next bar line right after beat 4, not right before. And then I'm going to draw the bar lines for Songmaker to help me keep track where I am. So when you do this for your composition, make sure you are doing this on the grid paper, not just any staff paper, because the grid paper is going to show you how to space out the music properly. Okay, there's your G, another G. And then F on beat 2 of the second measure. And I'm looking on the wrong side. But the good thing is it's the same music up to here anyway. Okay, then we got an E. And then we got a D on beat 4. Just like so. And then 2 C's on beats 1 and 2. And we're almost done. And an E on beat 4. And then D followed by a C and another C. Okay, so when you do this on your own compositions, make sure you have at least the paper that you worked on from yesterday or the last lesson, lesson 3, as well as this grid paper, and that'll help you. So go ahead and pause this video and work on spreading out your music like it is in Songmaker onto this staff paper grid.